Hey everyone, my name is Nitin. I'm a Spark AR creator, and in this video, you'll find out how you can integrate hand swipe gesture recognition onto your effects in just 3 simple steps. So let's get started. For this, we'll be using the neck decoration template project. It comes with some inbuilt functionality that allows you to track users' shoulders without using the body tracking functionality. So let's select neck decoration. Great. The project comes with some assets which are not required. For example, the bow tie, you don't need it, so you can delete it. Also, there are a few patches here used for anti-aliasing. You do not need them, so you can delete these patches too. Great. Now, before I get started with each individual steps, let me give you a quick theory. Also, if you've downloaded the folder from the drive link, you will find this particular video wherein I'm performing the hand swipe gesture. You can use it to try out the functionality because it's a little tough to test out hand tracking functionality using a webcam. So I thought I would make a demo video for it. Okay, so now for the theory. You see, a user is comfortable making a hand swipe gesture when the user has raised his hand somewhere near the shoulder region. So I did a quick research and I realized that this is the most comfortable way to do the hand swipe gesture. If it is above the shoulder region, below the shoulder region, or if it is even beyond the shoulder region, it becomes difficult for the user and they do not feel comfortable with it. Great. So the effect that we are going to be creating today will detect swipe gestures that are performed somewhere near the shoulder region. So if in the video you'll see that I'm moving my hand starting from one shoulder region to the other shoulder region. So like I said, this is the most comfortable way to perform the hand swipe gesture. Great. So now let's get started with the first step. The first step involves creation of scene elements that are required for tracking the user's hand and also the user's shoulder. You see, when I first came up with the concept for the workshop, I initially thought that I would show you how to write a script that would detect the user's hand swipe gesture. But you see, not everybody on the community follows scripting and would want to have this functionality of hand swipe gesture recognition in their filters. So what I did was I wrote the script in such a way that all you have to do is just drag and drop the script file into your project, create a few scene elements, do a little bit of configuration, and the effect would right away start detecting the gesture. So in case if you do not know how to write scripting, you don't have to worry about it at all because it's already been written and all the heavy lifting has been done in the script file. Great. So now let's create the scene elements. Select drag here and create two planes. Now I'll call this as left point. Please make sure that you also use the exact same names with the exact same camel casing, wherein for example here the first letter L is in lowercase and the letter P is in uppercase, so make sure you use the exact same name. And I'll rename this to right point. Great. So now each of these points will represent the 3D position of the user's shoulder. So left point would represent the left shoulder and right would represent the right shoulder. Great. Now create a canvas. By default, the canvas is named as canvas 0, which you have to rename it to canvas. Create 4 rectangles. rename the first rectangle to left rect and the second to right rect. Now these two elements, they were representing the 3D position of the user's shoulder, and these two will represent the 2D position of the user's shoulder on the user screen. Now the remaining two rectangles are for uh, the hands, so I'll rename this to left hand rect and this to right hand rect. Great. Also, you don't have to worry about scaling or rotating or positioning any of these elements because that's been taken care by the script. We are almost done with the first step. All we have to do is create two more materials. Great. So we have two materials here. I'll select both of them and change the shader type to flat. Okay. Now I'll rename the first material to point material and the second to hand material. Set their opacity to somewhere around 25 to 50. So I'll set it to 30 and assign different colors for each of these materials. So for the point, I'll select red, and for the hand material, I'll select green. That's it. We are done with the first step. Now, for the second step, you will have to import the script file that has been provided to you. But before that, make sure you delete the existing script file. Now I'll import the new script file. It does give you a few warnings, but they can be easily fixed. Go to Project, Edit Properties, and uncheck everything except Instagram. Now we'll have to configure the script file. With your script file selected in the inspector panel, we will have to create a few variables which will be passed to the script, and also one variable which will be passed to the script, and a few variables which will be received from the script. I already have the names written down, so I'm going to just copy paste. Under from script, create a new variable of type number and name it as first picker index. Then I'll create a pulse and call it hand overlap position. Hand overlap ended. Next, I'll create a vector3 patch, sorry, not a patch, a vector3 variable and call it hand overlap position. Finally, it's a pulse and I'll call it as first picker index change. So make sure you give the exact names with the exact spelling and also the exact same data types. Great. Finally, I'll create one variable that will be passed to the script. So under to script, click on the plus icon and create a number. By the way, when I say variables, I'm actually referring to signals. So these are the signals which will be passed from the script and received in the patch editor or vice versa. Okay, so now we have all these signals set up. In your patch editor, identify this purple patch. It is the representation of the script file that you have. Connect the output from the first port to drag here. Now we'll have to provide input for this particular signal. Okay, so here the first picker max represent the number of items you want your users to cycle through. For example, in the effect that we are creating now, there would be 3 hats. So the number that represents the number of hats will be entered here. It could be anything. It could be clothes or different LUTs and so on. So I'll enter 3 here. Now you can click on play. Let me refresh. Okay, so in case if you do not see materials applied to the effect, you can assign it manually. So select left rect and right rect and assign the material point material, and left hand rect and right hand rect, and the material would be hand material. Also, you can hide these 2 points. Great. Also, you could do one thing here to make those rectangles look better. So what I'll do is I'll just create a simple circle using SDF, and now I'll pass it to a step patch. And I'll assign the output to these materials. Just to make sure that they look good. Okay, so now in the scene you can identify 2 points or 2 rectangles. So they actually represent the shoulder position in 2D space, and also the green circle representing the user's hand. Since we are providing these items so that the user knows what's being tracked and where he has to perform the swipe gesture, and since you do not want them to show up in the final recording, you can select all of these, and under enable for, you can disable capture so that it doesn't show up in the recording. And great, that's the end of second step. We are now in the final step, the step 3. The effect is now recognizing the user's swipe gesture and incrementing and decrementing values based on the direction of swipe. So to make sure this is working fine, take the output from first picker index and connect it to a value patch. So this value will tell you whether the user is swiped right or swiped left, or what option the user has swiped towards. So right now I guess it's 1, so if the user swipes again it becomes 2, and so on. Since I am recording my screen and also using Spark AI Studio at the same time, the swipe gesture may not be recognized once in a while, since a lot of things are happening at the same time. But if you try it out on your phone, it would work totally fine. So I'll hit play and let's see how the value changes. Since we have set the value of max to be 3, it will go from 0, 1, 2, and then go back to 0 and repeat the pattern. And if I'm swiping in the other direction, it goes from 2, 1, 0 and goes back to 2. So if you want a higher range, you just have to increase the value of first picker max. So let's hit play and see what happens. Great. It does recognize the swipe gesture and increment values or decrement values accordingly. Like I said, since I'm recording and using Spark AI Studio at the same time, the there are times when it drops a frame and doesn't recognize, but it will work fine on your devices. So from here onwards, the procedure is very similar to what you would do with the picker UI. Imagine this was your picker UI. It would give you the index of the option that has been selected by the user, and you would use it to hide or display some items based on the index, or you would allow users to cycle through different lookup tables and so on. So for this tutorial, what we would do is I'll import 3 hats. You would have received 3D models of 3 hats. You will have to import them, place them on the user's head, and allow the swipe gesture to cycle through different hats. So now I'll import those hats. I'll import the second hat. And finally, the third hat. Okay, great. We have all 3 hats. Let's place them on top of the user's head. I'll drag these hats and place them under face tracker. Okay, so now all 3 hats are placed. What I'll do is I'll select the head occluder, select its material and increase the opacity. This will show us the user's head and also the user's shoulders, the 3D model of the user's head and the user's shoulder. Let me pick one hat at a time and align it with the user's head. So I have this first hat. I think it's missing a texture. Let me fix that. I'll bring down the opacity. And change this to alpha. Okay, so this is the first hat. I'll make sure the occluders are visible so that it is easier to place the hat on top of the user's head. Now let me place these. This looks fine. So I'm gonna hide this. Let me place the second hat. Let me scale it down to 0.25. Okay, it's still a little large, so I'll scale it down again and place it on top of the user's head. Okay, great. So we have the second hat. Now, finally, the third hat. So this particular hat does come with some extra items. We can delete it. I'll delete the mustache. Okay, we'll scale it down to that's very small. Okay, this should be fine. Okay, this looks good. So we have all our three hats ready. Now we'll use the output from the swipe gesture to turn on the visibility of each of these hats. So we'll connect this to an option sender. We'll change the data type to Boolean, and the value that will be sent is true. So if the swipe gesture tells me that 0 hat should be visible, it will be sending a value of true to it. Now with all three hats selected, click on the arrow next to visible icon. This will create 3 consumer patches, and now connect each individual output to the visibility consumer patch, to each visibility consumer patch. Now I guess we can go back and reduce the opacity of the occluder and click on play. Like I said, since a lot of things are happening at the same time, it will definitely miss a few swipes, but it will work fine on your devices. Let me hit play. Great. Okay, so that's how you implement swipe gesture recognition in Spark AR.